And we should be live. And hopefully you got a notification on your phone saying we're live. And that would be huge.
There it is. I got it.
You did?
Yep.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Let's fucking go. All right, boys and girls. Season 6, episode 26.
Yep.
Back at it again with the audio and video setup. Try to change up the layout here so you can kind of get us both in the shot as it usually is on the podcast where we sit across from each other. It was kind of awkward last week.
It was.
Sitting next because I can't look at you.
No. Yeah.
And yeah, so we switched the seating around, and no, this is not a sponsored Farkle ad. We're going to have to fix some of these audio settings later down the road.
We're getting there. It's only number 2.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
Got to start somewhere, one step at a time.
Yeah, we got a lot on the docket today. We're going to talk Bills. We'll talk some NFL news, probably some Sabres at the end of the show. And then the meat of this, I really wanted to get into some NCAA March Madness bracketology here for this year's tourney.
The perfect bracket.
Jeff has the perfect bracket. I looked at, he's got about one team right, and it's the team that's going to win the whole thing because I think I got the same one as him. Right. But before we start, we got... I
brought some beers.
We got some brews.
I brought some beers. I brought some leftover Guinness from St. Patrick's Day the other day. Shout out to Jimmy Down for leaving these at the house because they're going to come in handy for today.
Little
nice
Guinness
ice cold
action.
Guinness.
Guinness is supposed to be room temperature.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, they're spraying everywhere, so that's fun.
Okay.
Looks like we're drinking chocolate milk.
It's... Oh, yeah, this is going to be good.
I think it's a 16-ounce can in a 12-ounce glass.
I'll throw this down here.
Look at that. Look at that pour.
I'm going to let mine go down. I messed up the pour.
Oh, you messed up the pour? What?
Shocker.
No.
Shocker. I messed up the pour, guys.
Look at that. That looks nice.
All right. So I got slides for this week, and kind of on different talking points, and you're not going to be able to see it. I'm going to see it, but you'll be able to see it after the fact.
That's right.
Which is going to be kind of cool. The first slide I'm going here, first thing I want to talk about, I think this is the latest news, was the Bills signing Laviska Shenault Jr. To the team. He's a wide receiver, kick returner, punt returner, special teams kind of gadget player. Another one of these guys we're picking up here. He's kind of bounced around the league, a few different teams. I forget where he was last year. I just remember him on the Jaguars. Okay, he was on Seattle last year. 10th most return yards in NFL last season, 459 yards, 1 touchdown, averages 28.7 a return, not too bad.
I'll take it.
Yeah, spent the 2024 season with Seattle. He had a 97-yard return for a touchdown last year against the 49ers. I'm fine with the piece. Look, we got rid of Mac Hollins. We're going to have to start filling some of these pieces in the wide receiver room, right?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be good he's probably going to be a special teamer more than anything. I still don't think he's going to be used as a wide receiver, as a main wide receiver, like maybe a 4th, 5th option wide receiver. It's nothing that, we're going to write home about. Like, oh, thank God we signed this guy in the offseason because he was a huge help for us this season. I think it's going to be a special teamer. And like you said, I liked all the stats that you read about what he was doing last year on the kick return. So,
yeah. You know what? I'm happy about the signing. We'll see. This isn't probably the end of the signings, but this is definitely one of the later ones I just came across, I think about 2 days ago. So just trying to beef up that wide receiver room. The next one, this was some earlier signings here. Michael Hoyt.
Yep, you got it right.
Got it right this time. And Larry Okunjobi got it right this time as well. Hoyt coming over from the Rams, Okunjobi coming over from the Steelers last year. Excited to get 2 new pieces on defense. And then as of, I think, like 4 days ago, found out they're going to be out for, 6 games?
6 games for PED usage. So 6-game suspension, not really good considering the fact that those were some of the bigger signings that we brought over. I was kind of excited for them, but, hopefully we can, obviously they weren't here last year and the defense was all right. Hopefully they can come back after 6 games and just, help beef up the defense even more.
Yeah. I'm muting and unmuting it just because I don't know if it's going to double reverb on it, but better safe than sorry, I guess. So Okunjobi cut by the Steelers. This was a couple Mondays ago for salary cap space, makes the team, and then boom, PEDs. Kind of sucks that we're going to be missing two guys that we were kind of excited for, especially Hoyt, who's kind of like a gadget player on the defensive side. You know, and Okunjobi, a good pass rusher, pieces that we really needed on defense that they're going to be out half the season. A slide that I forgot to add in here, and I said I was going to add it, and I forgot, was Matt Milano, and it kind of goes hand in hand with that because Milano will be back. He decided to take a pay cut, I think it was, to remain on the roster, help the Bills out a little bit. I don't think he was going anywhere, but I think he just decided to take a pay cut to help the Bills out anywhere. Perfect. Not to really remain on the roster, but you know what I mean. So he should probably be seeing some significant play time, especially with some absence here and some defensive players. My issue is these guys that get busted for PEDs, they miss 6 games. It's not a guarantee you're going to come back and start right away, depending on how the guys that took over for you or maybe will be taking over for you play, right? We got a guy comes in and he's balling out and Hoyt comes back. It's like, well, now you're in a tough position here. Can you really start the guy? No. I don't think you can at that point. So you kind of missed your window almost.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of did the same thing last year when Milano came back from that injury. Who was it? Dorian Williams took over a spot. He was playing great, and I actually don't think Matt Milano should have started over him. But the Bills did that. You know, they gave him the veteran, luxury. You know, you've been on the team. You've been proven when you're healthy. We're just going to throw you back in there. But I think Dorian Williams really proved himself that he should have stayed in there. Matt Milano should have been the fill-in at that point. Matt Milano did come on, better towards the end of the season after he came back. But yeah, like you said, if anybody steps up and takes over a big role, we'll see if they get that veteran luxury for just being able to come back in and take their starting job. Who knows if they were even going to start? They'll get to practice in the preseason, all that other stuff. So they're going to see what they have in them and where they're going to use them. I'm sure they get paid a lot of money to figure that stuff out.
Right.
We just get not paid to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it looks like his contract agreement includes a $3.6 million pay reduction, which can be earned back through incentives. He will be a free agent in the 2026 offseason. Only appeared in 9 regular season games over the last 2 seasons after suffering that MCL tear in 23 and a bicep tear in 24. Before the injuries, though, all-pro guy in 22, logging 99 tackles, 3 picks, 1.5 sacks, and 11 passes defended. So, yeah, we know what we're going to get with a healthy Milano. It's can he stay healthy? He obviously wants to stay with the Bills.
Oh, for sure.
I think the Bills fans want him to stay there. But this is like you're kind of on the ropes here where you're doing the right thing by taking a pay cut. He knows that too. He's like, I haven't played. I have to take a pay cut if I want to stay on the team. Or you could do the selfish thing, go, oh, no, I know I'm worth this much. Just because I was hurt, I'm just going to go somewhere else. And he knows that his best chance of winning a Super Bowl is with the Bills.
For sure.
So...
with Milano, too, we were so excited for him last year before he got that bicep injury in workouts because we had lost Hyde. We had lost Poyer. We lost Trey White. We lost, like, the main guys that were on the defense, and this was going to be the guy that was going to step up and be that, the huge, like, impact player. Like, he was going to be the guy that came out and, solidified this defense, and then he gets hurt again. It's like, okay, well, this is back-to-back years now that we're dealing with 2 totally different injuries. So we'll see what he can do.
Absolutely. 2 guys that popped up when I was looking yesterday that are probably due for some long-term deals here. James Cook and Christian Benford, it looks like. Now, we already signed Terrell Bernard to a long-term deal, 4 years, $50 million. Shakir, 4 years, $60.2 million. Obviously, we know Josh is locked down for a while with that huge contract. But Cook, 3 seasons with the Bills. Benford, 3 seasons with the Bills. They all could be basically getting calls from the team to see, hey, what do you guys want to do here, right? I'm hoping we can keep James Cook, especially after last year's kind of breakout season.
Yeah.
What did he say he wanted? 25 mil?
15. He wants 15 mil a year.
Yeah.
He basically wants, just under what Saquon was getting. Hate to break it to you, but Saquon's a unicorn. You're not getting Saquon money. And if I had to pick between the two to sign long-term, I'm taking Benford. Benford was a 6th-round pick, absolutely blew everybody out of the water. He was starting over our 1st-round pick in that same draft, who we just traded to Dallas a couple weeks ago. And cornerback's such a hard position to lock down. I don't want to say running backs are a dime a dozen because Cook didn't fumble last year. 16 touchdowns is phenomenal. But at some point, running backs, they get so much more usage that it's kind of like, all right, you get 5-6 years in the league, and then we got to go get your replacement. With Benford, I really think he's the one, especially for defense. I think those type of players are harder to come by than running backs like James Cook. Not saying James Cook's a run-of-the-mill running back,
right.
But
yeah, the 15 mil that he's seeking. It would be the first time in the Bean era that they've given any big resources to a player in his position. And actually, he saw fewer snaps than he did 2 years ago than last year.
Yeah.
But he was more productive in that year. And it says here, if the Bills thought they could get a James Conner contract signed for Cook, which is 2 years, $19 million, I think that they would do that. I could see a contract like that. The only problem is James Conner is a guy that's kind of reaching the end of his career,
right? And
Cooks is basically just starting, right?
Yeah,
it's hard to justify. Although James Conner, I think, is a really good running back, especially at his age, because he is one of the older running backs in the league. That's going to be a hard argument to make if you're the Bills. Oh, we'll pay you what we would pay this guy who's a proven running back, and Cook's going, well, this dude's basically on his way out. I definitely deserve more than. Less than what's that? 9 a year, but I still think that's a fair offer.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of rumblings that saying that like if you could get him to be okay with 12 years or 12 million a year for like 3 years,
he's never going.
Give him 36 million. But make the first 2 years, the years that he gets paid the more towards like 13 or 14 million a year. Mm-hmm. And then that last year is kind of like an opt-out year. Like the Bills be like, okay, well, you've been productive. We can either extend you again, or we could just let you go if you're not as productive as you wanted, or as we thought you would be when you said you wanted, 15 million a year. So we'll see. I'm sure they can figure something out. But yeah, I think his asking price is going to be a little bit too high because he's not Saquon Barkley. Like, apples to apples, oranges to orange, whatever you want to call it. Like, he's not the same type of running back that Saquon is.
I hope this isn't clickbait here because it says that they just traded him for somebody, but that can't be right.
That's fake.
12 minutes ago, it says. Bills trade star running back, add 4-time Pro Bowler. Oh, in a wild suggestion. I'm like, there's no way. But you know what's funny? It just literally popped up 12 minutes ago on the feed.
I was about to start looking. Was it on The Onion?
It was on Yardbreaker. So not too sure.
I've never heard of that site.
How reliable. Given the Bills' salary cap situation, probably be unable to really make any offer, any other significant moves. Here we go. Brandon Ray of the Buffalo Down has offered a rather intriguing suggestion for them that running back Nick Chubb. Here's the catch, though. This Brandon Ray guy, has Buffalo trading James Conner for him. Okay, so Conner for Chubb? I don't understand.
That doesn't even make sense.
The logic behind that trade, because you're trading basically running back for running back, and Chubb, as good as Chubb is injury prone literally every year. And he might not, he's missed years. Yeah. So like, why would we give up a guy who's never been hurt, knock on wood, for a guy who's always hurt?
And I think Nick Chubb is a free agent. I don't even think he's on the Browns anymore.
No, I don't know. That's what it said. It said this would be the trade. It would be Chubb for James Cook.
You got clickbaited hard on that one.
They pulled up real quick on me. Well, whatever, man.
Take these off. These aren't even plugged in.
This dude he's trying to fool everybody out there.
It's very weird to have everything muffled.
Outside of that, I really don't have too many new like news that are popping up in the last couple of days. Stephon Diggs ditches the Bills reunion idea.
Yeah, we don't want him back anyway. After all the shit he talked on his way out.
Wants to stay in the NFC. I mean, sure, good for you. I still feel like he'll end up in Dallas to play with his brother.
Probably.
Which is what I thought would have happened last year, but because I can't remember. I think that was a 1-year deal for the Texans.
Yeah, he was on his last year of the Bills contract.
Okay,
and
so
then we traded him, and they never re-signed him. And then he got hurt.
Which they can't be. I mean, that was smart, obviously, but I still see him going to the Cowboys. That kind of makes sense, especially after I just heard that, and this was true today, that the Cowboys passed up and they could have had Cooper Kupp, but Jerry didn't want to pay the $30 million.
Of course he didn't.
And the argument was that, well, they already had $60 million a year wrapped up in Dak, which he doesn't deserve it, but they already have the money allocated to that. 30-something million a year to CD and $40 million a year to Micah Parsons. So half of your salary cap is taking up with 3 players. So another $30 million to another wide receiver. That's their fault. They kind of pinholed themselves like that, but they really screwed up. They paid Dak way too much money, and then they waited too long to pay CD, and they could have got him cheaper. So It's all on the Cowboys. It's all Jerry's fault, waiting too long to pay these players. Did we talk about T. Higgins and Jamar Chase last week?
No, that just happened. So, no, but did Dallas sign Micah Parsons? Because last time
maybe it wasn't a for sure thing. I think maybe that's what they're thinking. They're going to have to pay him was $40 million.
Probably.
So the guy was just doing all the putting the numbers together, and it's like CD plus Dak plus Micah Parsons equals half salary cap equals where are we going to fit Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, because as far as I know, Micah Parsons still isn't signed, but.
Yeah, if you have the room, obviously it's a great fit, I think, for most franchises that are looking for a wide receiver. But if you're kind of up against the wall with the cap, then I can see where that problem is. My thing is that Jerry did it to himself, type of thing. Sure. So now they're going to have to go out and probably draft and hope they hit the lottery on a draft, basically, because even running back position not looking great. Went out and got Javonte Williams and somebody else like Miles Sanders, I think it was. So you got 2 guys that are basically backups. What are we going to do here? Yeah. You're going to alternate between those 2 guys who have never really been. I mean, Miles Sanders had a decent time a while back with the Eagles, but these are backup quarterbacks or backup running backs now. So
wide receivers.
No, running backs. Miles Sanders.
My bad. Yeah. I was still thinking CeeDee Lamb. But yeah, and you want to talk about backing yourself into a corner and having to pay too much. That's where the Bengals came in, and they did the same thing to themselves when they had Jamar Chase, who the owner said a week before the Myles Garrett deal said he's going to be the highest non-paid quarterback in the league. Well, you shot yourself in the foot because you should have did this before Myles Garrett signed a $40 million a year deal, because you signed Jamar Chase $161 million for 4 years, and it's $40.1 million guaranteed per year. So he technically is the highest paid wide receiver, non-quarterback in the league as a wide receiver. Yep. And then you get, then they signed T. Higgins to $115 million over 4 years. Yep. I don't know what that breaks. Was that just under $30 million a year?
Yeah, it was 28.7 a year.
That's insane. I understand Joe Burrow's frustrations. He said he wanted them back on the team. He wanted them paid. But you got a guy like Hendrickson, who's now looking for a trade because he wants to get paid $30 million a year, and they're not going to be able to do that. So they're probably going to lose their leading sack, the NFL's leading sacker last year, Trey Hendrickson. And then what? You guys going to put up 40 points a week? Well, great, because your defense is going to let up 50 points a week. Mm-hmm. That did not make any sense to me. And this is something they should have handled 2 years ago. They probably could have saved close to $60 million total per year if they would have just signed into long-term contracts last year when they both wanted long-term deals. Jamar Chase has been saying he wants a long-term deal for 2 years now. T. Higgins got franchise tagged last year, got franchise tagged this year just before he got signed to this contract. So Jerry Jones backed himself into a corner, paying everybody too late. The Cincinnati Bengals did the exact same thing. And yeah, their offense is going to be great, but when their defense is putting up just as many points or letting up just as many points as your offense is going to put up, it's going to come down to the same thing last year. You had the leading sacker in the league, but your defense was Swiss cheese.
Yeah, I'm pulling up Burrow's salary per year is about $55 million. So this is basically the Cowboys then.
Yeah.
$55 million for Burrow, 40 for Chase, call it 30 for T. Higgins. There's half the salary cap again in 3 players. And you're right, man. A guy like Trey Hendrickson, who's a Pro Bowler, one of the top DNs in the National Football League, you got to let walk because you can't pay him now. I mean, they really messed up. The Bengals really good for them. I don't really care. Like, we obviously want them to fuck up. But if you're a Bengals fan, you're going, oh, great. We need to score 50, like you said, points a game. And we're going to have a repeat of next year. Now, I'm guessing the GMs, these guys are like, we're going to draft good. We're going to go to free agency. We're going to find somebody on the cheap. This just in, when you're going to free agency, you're not going to find a perennial, all-star Pro Bowler typically in free agency. It's going to be a guy that's coming off of an injury, a guy at an old age who's probably going to be retiring in the next few years, or it's a guy that's just not that good. So to go into free agency and think you're going to hit the jackpot is like a 1 in 1,000 chance that's going to really happen.
For sure. I completely agree.
I'm seeing here any other news. I don't think I got any other Bills news. That's it.
That's it. That's all we got for the NFL.
That's all for the NFL.
Hey, that's all right. It's the off season. We're in our off season. This is rare for us to be doing a podcast.
Yeah, this is true.
In end of March.
This is true. But we got some exciting stuff coming up right now with the March Madness bracket. So let me switch slides here and get us ready in basketball mode here. All right, so Jeff and I we filled out our own brackets here. We did our own predictions. We added some upsets here and there. I know he doesn't watch college basketball nearly as much as I do.
Not
but
until tomorrow when it starts.
Until it starts, right? And then we're paying attention here. And I only started watching it probably beginning of February, but I've been watching a lot of it. So I kind of have what I would think is a good idea on what teams to pick here and there, but this will be fun. So this will be cool when you get to see this. So I got a graphic up and it's got a side-by-side of my picks and your picks on the left too. Awesome, dude. Oh yeah, cool. So I guess we'll start with the Southern or the South, conference here. Starting from the top here. I mean, it's pretty obvious here. So they just had the playing game for the 16th seed yesterday. Alabama State and St. Francis University. There's a name poll. Didn't matter who won that game. That was actually a really good game. I did watch it. Came down to this dude threw a Hail Mary pass for Alabama State with 3 seconds to go, bounced off 2 defenders' heads. It was a tie game. And the player caught it and put it in the basket with like under a second to go to prevent overtime, which also made me hit the under on that, by the way. Literally the only play that could have happened. Great game by Alabama State. They're probably just happy to be there. It's Auburn.
Yeah.
It's Auburn. Right?
Auburn's absolutely.
This game will be great, though. Louisville, Creighton, 8 and 9 seed. Louisville probably should be a little bit higher, possibly a 7 or 6 seed, the way that they played this year. 27 wins on the season. I actually have Louisville going to the next round. I think you have Creighton.
I took Creighton, yeah.
It's the battle of the Cardinals and the Blue Jays, the battle of the birds.
All right.
In this matchup. Either team, I think that's a toss-up. Those 8-9 seeds are always pretty tough. It can go either way in a lot of cases. Michigan versus UC San Diego. I wanted to follow you. I see you took UC San Diego on this one.
I changed it.
And I was going to do that. That's actually been a popular upset in a lot of brackets. They play very good defense. However, they're not really tested in their conference. They don't have nearly, I don't know if they have any quad 1 wins on the year. So I took Michigan. I went with the juggernaut, or one of the juggernauts, the perceived juggernauts. Michigan kind of fell off at the end of the season, and then they bounced back, came the conference tourney, and they end up winning that. So I'm going to take Michigan on that. I'm not mad at the UC San Diego upset, though. Texas A&M and Yale. There's always one Ivy League team that makes it every year. And Yale's been kind of the Ivy League team the last couple years. I took them as my upset team right now. That's the first upset for me off the board over Texas A&M.
Yeah,
You got to have a team full of white guys on the team. You know what I mean? Just shooting threes.
Yeah, I guess. Texas A&M, I know more about them than I do Yale. I know Yale's a good hockey school, so I was like, well, I don't know what they're doing for basketball, so let me go Texas A&M.
I like it. Ole Miss in North Carolina, we just found out yesterday North Carolina is advancing into the big boy bracket here. They won their playing game against San Diego State yesterday. A lot of controversy on this, saying that the Tar Heels shouldn't even be in the
I saw that
tournament
over
West Virginia, where West Virginia had 9 quad wins, I think, or something like that, and UNC had 0. They didn't beat anybody of value all season. They've had close games. Granted, you have to play Duke 3 times a year. It doesn't help.
Yeah.
But with 0 quad 1 wins and making it into the NCAA bracket was kind of a shocker. And a lot of people are calling for some sort of collusion. I guess one of the committee heads was like UNC alumni or something. I don't know the whole story.
UNC alum.
That being said, they got into the play-in game. They played San Diego State. I saw people taking San Diego State. The line was like 4.5 yesterday. UNC wins by 30 or almost 40, I think.
Yeah,
they blew them out.
90 to 60 or something.
They blew them
like
out.
That, yeah.
They blew them out. That being said, I like UNC in this game, advancing against Ole Miss. Ole Miss isn't a bad team. They're kind of been a more average team for most of the season, but UNC's kind of got a chip on their shoulder, I'm thinking. A lot of people saying they're not supposed to be there. So I at least got them winning in the round of 64.
Yeah, I also took UNC because of that game last night.
Yeah,
I was like, damn, they're out for blood at this point because they heard all the noise. Everybody's on social media nowadays, especially these kids that are 18, 19, 20 years old, whatever they are. They're hearing all this shit. They're gonna be like, no, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna go absolutely dominate, and they did. So I'm like, okay, they're playing with a chip on their shoulder, and those are dangerous teams to go up against. So you got a team that can put up 90 points. Granted,
yeah.
It wasn't a great team they played against.
If you put up over 80 in college basketball, that's actually amazing. So, I think 80 points puts you in probably the top 5 percentile of the NCAA. So yeah, they've been on a tear, and I know you haven't been watching them that closely at the end of the season, but they won, I think, 9 out of their last 10 games. So they've definitely been on a streak. This game here, Iowa State, Lipscomb. Lipscomb's another team people were talking about. They're actually a high-scoring team as well, but again, you got to look at the conference they're in, the level of competition they're playing. Not nearly close to the level of competition Iowa State plays. I'm taking Iowa State in this one. Pretty easy pick for me.
Yeah, I'm taking Iowa State just because I know Iowa State is a perennial. They're a good basketball team. They always make a decent run, in this tournament. So that was my main reason for picking them.
Yeah, the Cyclones, man. I will say, not to foreshadow too much because I know what your picks are, but they have been kind of banged up throughout the year since I think December. 2 of their starters may not be playing.
Oh, wonderful.
But it's not. They won't release anything until game time tomorrow. I think their tomorrow game. I don't know if they're tomorrow or Friday, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. So there is an unknown with that. Everybody's healthy, probably deeper than I have. They got guys missing, starters missing. It might be an early exit for them. But
I didn't know.
Yeah, it's little things, man. It's just the little things. I only know that because I bet on them a couple times this year, and whenever their starters are out, I bet against them.
Oh. Okay.
This will be a good one, and I'm actually going to see this one tomorrow. I'm sorry, Thursday, Friday. I forgot what day it was. In Cleveland, Ohio. Marquette going up against New Mexico, the Lobos. I'm taking the upset in this one. New Mexico. I believe the Lobos won their conference. I want to say it's the Big West, if I'm not mistaken. Marquette, very good school. They beat Xavier in the conference tourney last week. I think it could go either way. I just wanted to take another upset, and I know the Lobos are actually a pretty decent school for being, I'm not going to say mid-major, but they're on the lower echelon. They're not a Duke. They're not a UNC, right? So I took New Mexico. Who'd you have in this? Marquette?
Yeah, I took Marquette in this one.
I'm not mad at that one.
It's one of those things where I'm just... When you get to the 7-10, 8-9 matchups, even the 6-11 matchups, it literally could be a coin toss at this point. But I went with Marquette on this one. there's just something about it. I know they don't have as good of a record as New Mexico State, but I went with Marquette.
And then the last one in the South here, Michigan State going up against Bryant. Bryant's one of these schools that, again, they put up a lot of points, but the level of competition that they're used to playing nowhere near Michigan State, who's, I think, one of the top 2, top 3 defensive school in the NCAA this year. Taking Michigan State, not really a lot to be said about that. Also, a game that we'll be seeing on Friday in Cleveland.
Nice.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I took Michigan State as well on this one for no particular reason other than I know that school is a basketball school.
So we'll go pretty quick through the other rounds because I want to get to the other conferences. I figure we'll just do the South, and we'll go from the South to the West, and we'll kind of just do like a little bit of a U or a circle here until we get to the Final Four, and then we'll talk the Final Four after.
Sounds good.
So I'll blow through the rest of these then. Since we talked about most of the teams. So Auburn, Louisville for me. I got Auburn advancing, Michigan, Yale, Michigan advancing, UNC, Iowa State advancing, New Mexico, and Michigan State advancing. And that basically comes down to an Auburn against Michigan. Auburn will advance. Iowa State against Michigan State. I got Michigan State advancing, and I'm going to actually put Michigan State advancing to the Final Four over Auburn. So a little bit of an upset, but a lot of people still think Michigan State's probably a top 2 team in the whole NCAA. Where are you at with yours on after the first round?
So after that, I went Auburn over Creighton, and then I went UC San Diego over Texas,
Ooh.
Iowa over UNC. Even though I was just talking about how UNC is playing with a chip on their shoulder,
Yep.
Did not know Iowa had some starters that are banged up, but we'll see. And then I went Michigan State over Marquette, and then go back to the top. I took Auburn over UC San Diego State. I think that Cinderella story kind of fades at that point. And then I took Iowa over Michigan State. Again, had I actually looked into this and done any type of research other than printing a bracket and just being like, yep, let me pick these. And
it's
then,
not terrible if their guys manage to stay healthy because they are a really good team when everybody's playing.
And that's a big ask. But then I took Iowa over Auburn to make it to the Final Four.
Okay.
So when I first did this, I picked all 4 without even paying attention to the seedings.
Yeah.
I just picked.
Oh, really? You didn't pay attention to the seedings?
Nope,
I figured you were like,
just
chalk. Just go chalk on it.
No, because I watched the NCAA tournament. It's one of the most exciting things.
It is
of the year.
I think it's actually one of like the highest sports gambling kind of events.
Not even just gambling; it's just fun to watch.
But it is. It like brings in. I think I saw something like $3.8 billion worth of gambling revenue a year.
Insane.
And I want to say that's definitely more than the Super Bowl brings in. So people are watching is what I'm getting at. People are watching.
I don't watch college basketball. I watch the NCAA tournament.
It's fun though.
I watch the NFL.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. I'm watching this because of how exciting it is.
Also, college basketball is just way more exciting than professional basketball these days anyway. So
the NBA, all they want to do is
done.
chuck up threes.
They chuck up threes. They cry about
65 3 points.
They cry about there's fouls on every play. They're crying about calls, and the product sucks. So NCAA is definitely better. All right, so you got Iowa State advancing out of the South to the Final Four. Let me see, what did I have this in my next bracket? I think it was the West.
West.
Bang bang, NCAA West. Here we go. This should be a quick one. Florida over Norfolk State here. I believe you did the same on that one, right? I have UConn over Oklahoma.
I have UConn over Oklahoma too, just because I know they're an 8 seed, but they are back-to-back champions at this point.
Yeah.
And the UConn Huskies are one of my teams that I kind of follow. When I was in Florida in 1999 when they won the NCAA tournament, and when I was coming home from Florida, the entire airport was filled with UConn national championship swag that you could buy at the airport. Everybody was wearing it. I used to own Huskies as a kid. I had them for 25 years. So I got to go with the Huskies. It's one of my teams.
Not mad at that.
If I have a team.
I'm not I'm not mad at that. They've been there before. It's a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a seasoned team that they kind of know what to expect.
I really like Dan Hurley too. I like
good coach too.
Yeah, great coach. He's not afraid to speak his mind. I've seen a lot of clips of him this year, kind of just mouthing off the referees, just just mouthing off in general. He's my kind of guy.
Yeah, a lot of the teams I picked too have pretty good coaches too, which is a big part of it, right?
Yeah.
The players are only there for so many years until they're either drafted or whatever. Unless you're like some of these teams that have like 8-year seniors on their fucking team. I don't know how that works. But the coaches are there forever, right?
Yeah.
So that's another kind of thing I think about when I'm picking some of these teams. Memphis, Colorado. This is actually where one of my upsets is. I'm taking Colorado State, and this one I think they're number 1 in the country in field goal percentage. I was looking this up earlier today. 50, like they shoot over 51% from 2, which a lot of layups, a lot of dunks, close range shots. I didn't look at their 3. I think their 3 still isn't bad, over 30% from 3. But Colorado State, again, a mid-major team kind of. They play in a little bit of lesser conference. And Memphis is a team that is basically the only team in their conference. They're playing with the talent in that conference is far greater than most of these other conferences. So it was kind of tough for me, but I went with the upset in this one, taking a 10 seed.
Yeah, I did not take the upset on this one. I went with Memphis.
Penny Hardaway.
Purely based off of the fact that they only have 5 losses going into the season and going into the tournament.
No, they're a good team. Even though the competition isn't like they're playing Duke or anybody, but the teams that are in their conference, North Texas, UAB, FAU, Florida Atlantic was one of those Final Four stories like a few years ago that they were like a 15th seed and they went on a run and made it to the Final Four. So they got some people in their conference, but they're not playing Duke every other week, right? So it's like or teams like Duke every other week, I should say. So I'm not mad at that pick though. Good team, good coach too. Penny Hardaway, former Orlando Magic Hall of Famer. Bing. All right, next game, Maryland and Grand Canyon. I like Maryland in this one. The Antelopes, the Grand Canyon Antelopes. Some people have them as an upset. I like Maryland's starting 5, probably one of the best starting 5 out of any of these teams. If you want to just call a balanced team out, just too much firepower. Got to go with Maryland.
Yeah, I took Maryland as well.
The Terps.
Yeah. I took Maryland.
Yeah, I know you did.
Like I said, I'm not big on the college, but coming into this, I don't do any.
Good pick, dude.
We knew we were going to do this week, and I still didn't do any research on any of these teams. So
good pick.
But
Missouri Drake, we both got an upset in this one.
Yep.
Taking Drake. I know you don't know too much about them. This is kind of a clash of 2 different styles here. Missouri, very fast-paced team. Drake, very slow-paced team. They like to hold the ball, waste all the shot clock, and then take a shot. And they take high percentage shots at that. A lot of people are probably going to lean a little bit towards Missouri just because they are the better team on paper. But Drake does a lot of good things, and if they can play the slow basketball and make Missouri slow down, they'll win the game. Yeah. If they don't play up to Missouri's speed and rush it, and they get Missouri to play to them, get out to a lead and just make them play slower, that's a win.
Yep. One thing I did actually know about the Drake team is they do play slower, and what I've heard is you, as a slow-paced team, you can make higher-paced teams slow down based on ball control.
Yes.
So, and if Missouri's off their rhythm and they can't play their style of play, I think that's gonna be trouble for them, and that's actually why I took Drake. That's one of the few things that I heard on probably one of the radio shows that I've been listening to is, that's one of the reasons Drake could be a big upset team is they can slow Missouri down.
Yeah, I like Drake a lot.
The team, not the rapper, right?
Not the rapper. Kendrick Lamar. Texas Tech over UNC Wilmington. I can't even talk. Taking TT on this one, man. UNCW, good team. I think they won their conference actually too. But Texas Tech, a different beast, man. Different level of competition. Texas Tech is actually one of the only teams to beat, or if they might actually be the only team to beat Houston in Houston, and Houston was undefeated at home for the longest time. Texas Tech took them to overtime, beat them. So I give a lot of credit to that because Houston's a team that I got going, kind of foreshadowing here to the Final Four. If you can beat a team I got going to the Final Four as being one of their only losses at home on the season, you're all right in my book. So I'm taking Texas Tech over UNCW.
Yeah, I took Texas Tech as well, just because I know Texas Tech.
Another good school.
It's a good school, but I know they've got a decent football program. But I know that they're, based off of watching this tournament over the years, that Texas Tech is usually in it, and they make, they get past the first round more than they get bounced.
Speaking of teams that have been there before, Kansas going up against Arkansas. I actually have Kansas advancing in this one. Might be a hot take. A lot of people think this might be one of the worst 7 seeds out there. Bill Self, the coach, getting his guys motivated. He's somebody that's been there before. They've gotten knocked out in the past in the first round by like 15 seeds when they were 2 seeds in the past. So I could see a lot of people not giving them really a shot on this one, but I like him going over Arkansas. The only issue is Arkansas's got John Calipari, who former Kentucky coach, who's also been there before. You're basically going 2 good coaches going at each other. The difference is Kansas and those players have been there before, some of those players. Arkansas's players, not so much. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Kansas in this round here.
Yeah, I went with Kansas as well, basically just off of what you said. But John Calipari, I actually totally forgot that he went to Kansas. So, or Arkansas from Kansas. But I'm going with Kansas, basically just exactly what you said.
You never know.
Better pour that quick. Holy shit. All right. Mike's making a mess, splashing all over the fucking laptop.
It's the nitrogen, guys. It's the nitrogen.
Now I know why they got to be room temperature and not cold.
I don't even know if that's it. Maybe it is.
Who knows? They didn't open like that on Monday, and they've been in the fridge since. So,
okay, so it's definitely cold.
Yeah, Kansas over Arkansas. And then we get down to the last one here, St. John's over Omaha. St. John's is one of the ones that, if it wasn't for Florida, and I think St. John's probably got put in the worst bracket.
Yeah.
They have the hardest, schools to go through. St. John's, people could see upsetting Florida, not to foreshadow, but St. John's, I actually know, is one of the better teams in this tournament this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I got St. John's over Omaha. Spread on this game, we're not talking gambling, but spread's like 15 points. Omaha might be a sneaky pick there, but realistically, St. John should make quick work of this team. And we want to keep on the coaches here. Rick Pitino, former Louisville coach.
I knew that. That's why. That's another reason why I like St. John's.
A guy that's been obviously he's been there before, right? This is a guy I put a lot of faith in that he can make it out of the first round, especially after the season that St. John's have 30 fucking wins on the season. Yeah. It's not easy to do. It doesn't matter what conference you're in. It's not easy to get 30 wins. So St. John should blow by Omaha easy. And then real quick, rest of the West here. Next round, I got Florida over UConn, Colorado State over Maryland, Drake over Texas Tech, Kansas over St. John's, Sweet 16, Florida over Maryland, Texas Tech over Kansas, and then the Elite 8, Florida over Kansas. I got Kansas going pretty far here, and they probably could lose to St. John's. They could probably lose to Texas Tech because on paper, I think St. John's and Texas Tech are better teams, but I'm going to go with kind of like almost like a revenge standpoint where they got bumped out in prior years to low seeds and they should have been a lot. They should have went a lot further. I think they kind of do a revenge this year. And then I got Florida over Kansas, though. It's going to be too much firepower. Give me Florida in the Final Four.
Yeah, I went Florida over UConn, Memphis over Maryland, Drake over Texas Tech, St. John's over Kansas. And then to get to the Sweet 16, I've got Florida over Maryland, Drake losing to St. John's. And then for the Elite 8, I've got Florida beating St. John's. But I think that's probably one of the better games to watch as we get, down to the last little bit of the last 8 teams here. But then I've got Florida advancing to the Final Four.
I really wish we could have got any of those 3 coaches at the bottom there.
Yep.
Self, Pitino, Calipari in Cleveland. That would have been cool to see any of those schools. Yeah. But yeah, I think this is going to be a really good division here. This West down here, the Florida on paper, the Florida St. John's will be great. If St. John's can make it as far as is that great. I hope Florida can make it that far. I have more faith in that happening, but I would like to see that matchup. All right, moving over to I think I have the East next. Yes, I do. And this is a lot of people's favorite kind of division over here, the East, because Duke's in it. And we're going to start off with Duke. Duke is playing the winner of a game that's happening right now, and I couldn't find the channel apparently because it's not on TV when I turned to my left. Duke's playing the winner of American and St. Mary's. I'll check the score when you start talking, but I think American should win this game. They're the better team out of the two. But either way, Duke's going to steamroll past either of those teams, probably by 20-plus margin here.
48-34, Mount St. Mary's.
Okay, look at that. Okay,
right.
St. Mary's up by 10 at half. Kind of shocking. Americans got the best player between both of those teams. I think it's Kyle Rogers, averages 17 points a game. However, the Mount taking charge here. They want to play Duke and lose in the first round more than American does.
Yeah, I took Duke over this game too, and it's funny you were talking about spreads already.
Yeah,
we don't even know who Duke's playing. I heard that on the way over here that they're already a 29-point favorite, which is insane because they don't even know who they're playing. So, but yeah, I'm taking Duke over either one of those teams. Yeah.
29 would put it at the highest spread that I've seen. I've seen Houston at 28.5, and there was one other school at 28.5 as well. So that would be the highest spread out of any of these games. And the thing is, that's tough. They should probably steamroll team, even with Cooper Flagg out. That's another thing we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
Flagg getting hurt in the conference championship game. Or was it the game before? No, it was the conference championship game against UNC. And that's a big loss for them. However, their team is that good where I think that they'll be okay at least the first couple rounds without him. When you start getting into better competition, you're going to have to hope he comes back. My bracket says he's going to come back, or else I would have fucking got them out a lot earlier. But you would hope he comes back, and it's going to be good for basketball. Fans want to see Cooper Flagg play anyways. Did I call him Cooper Cup earlier? Because I feel like I did, but I probably just said Cooper. All right.
Cooper Flagg, yeah.
Cooper Cup Flagg. So, yeah, we both got Duke going on. Next matchup, Mississippi State, Baylor. This is a game that I only picked Baylor in this one because I drew them in my pool with Tim.
Okay.
Otherwise, I probably would have taken Mississippi State. I bet against Baylor a bunch of times this year when they're on the road. Now, this will be a neutral site game, so there's no home field advantage for any of these teams, theoretically. There could be some teams from that area, but this is a neutral site for all these teams, right? I didn't look what Baylor's record is on a neutral site. They only play like 4 neutral site games a year. It's usually in the beginning of the season and then in the conference tourneys. I got them advancing just because I drew them. Otherwise, I might actually have Mississippi State in this one, just knowing how Baylor doesn't play good when they're not home.
Yeah, I took Mississippi State in this one for no particular reason. I'm not in any other pools outside of this. This will probably be the only bracket I actually fill out this year. Also, apologize for cracking that without muting my mic. Hopefully that wasn't
it's fine.
Too loud and obnoxious. Yeah, I'm taking Mississippi State in this one.
All right. And we got Oregon at Oregon at Liberty Biberty. Another game that people have upsets. This bracket's actually got a ton of potential upsets on it. This was the first one of them that I've seen people pick. I'm taking Oregon in this one. I bet against Oregon later in the season against, I think it was Indiana, and they embarrassed Indiana. And Indiana needed to win that game to actually make the tournament, and their coaches were retiring. So you think they would be playing hard. They got smoked. So I'm going to take Oregon just because I bet against them and lost. I think they can get out of the first round.
Yeah, I did not. I'm taking Liberty Biberty in this one.
Biberty.
Speaking of Indiana, though, they got their new head coach already. They got former West Virginia head coach Darren DeVries.
Yeah. Okay, nice.
So bad week for West Virginia. You don't get into the tournament, and then you lose your head coach 2 days later.
Mike Woodson was the coach for Indiana. He announced like mid-season that he was retiring. Been there for a while. So I just figured I bet some of their games, especially home games, because hey, you're going to play for your coach. This is his last hoorah. You kind of got a little edge on that, you would think. And like I said, conference tourney came around and they got bounced out by Oregon. Arizona at Who do we got here? Akron.
Get your glasses
This is
on, dude.
another, again, I'm telling you, there's a bunch of these in a row here, upsets that could happen. I'm taking Arizona, far better school. However, Akron plays in the MAC, same conference as UB, won the MAC this year. They're smoking teams. They were averaging high 80s in the MAC. Like they put up 100 2 games ago. In regulation, not even an overtime game. They put up 100. So they can put the ball in the basket. But again, you're going against teams like UB, who I think have won 6 games all year. Little unfair. I'm not even going to say unfair, but they just washed basically the whole conference. Good school. I guess if they can get a healthy lead, they start hitting their threes, they might make it interesting. I'd like to see what the spread is in this game. This could be a possible bet against the spread game. But on paper, Arizona, far better team, far better competition. Quad 1 wins. I'm taking AZ.
Yeah, I took Arizona as well, but I did text you earlier in the day. I kind of wanted to take Akron just because Arizona is so bad when it comes to the tournament. They have high expectations every year. They're supposed to be in the Elite Eight, the Final Four, you name it, and they always get bounced in the first or second round. And I almost picked against that just because, but I think Arizona, I think they're going to figure it out this year. And Arizona is one of those teams that makes it to this tournament every year.
Right.
So that's the main reason why I took Arizona. But I could see Arizona absolutely getting embarrassed first round again.
BYU, VCU. Upset one for me here on this side. I'm taking VCU, the 11th seed, I believe they are.
Yes.
Again, I can't see because this is in literally font 1.
You're just blind.
No, it's literally in font 1.
I can read it from here.
No, you
I don't
can't.
have contacts in or glasses on.
No, you can't.
I can see it. It says 11.
Yeah. VCU won their conference tourney. They beat George Mason, a school that's been in the Final Four a long time ago. Long time ago. They were a good Cinderella story back in like 2006 or whenever it was. Beat George Mason in their conference final to win their tourney. I'm taking them for this bracket here, man. I think VCU would be a good upset school. However, I won't be mad if BYU wins this one. I could see that happening. Again, bunch of white guys that can shoot threes is what they have on that team. I bet them. I think it was a couple weeks ago against Houston, and Houston ended up just beating the shit out of them. So they weren't hitting their threes, and if your threes aren't dropping it, and that's all you do, it's going to be tough to win. So we'll see. I think VCU is a more balanced team, but it could go either way.
Yeah, I took BYU over VCU in this one, purely because I know BYU is an actual team. I don't even know what VCU stands for.
Virginia Commonwealth University.
Yep, BYU. Is that Brigham Young University?
Brigham Young. I don't know. Yeah, that's the one.
Yep. Whatever it is.
All right, we got Wisconsin and Montana. Montana won the Big Sky Conference. Actually, third in the NCAA in field goal percentage. Just found that out today. Compliments Jeremy Janice.
Shout out King J.
King J, shout out. This is one that I think the spread's like 15 or 17, somewhere around there, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I get it. It's, 14 seed against a 3 seed.
Yep.
I get it. The spreads are going to get up there when you got these really low and really high seeds facing off in the first round, but Montana, conference winner, a pretty good field goal percentage team, as I just said. I think they could hold their own. 17 might be too much. Wisconsin's going to win this game, though. I think Wisconsin, again, a very good 3-point team, a team that's in the bracket, I feel like, almost every year. They go usually, I feel like Sweet 16 minimal every year. I'm taking them to get out of the first round. No upset.
Yeah, I took Wisconsin, too, so no rhyme or reason.
St. Mary's and Vandy. This is another game I'm seeing on Friday. I'm taking St. Mary's, the Gales. They play in the same conference as Gonzaga. They lost to Gonzaga in the championship or the in-conference tournament that they had. I don't know what I'm talking about here. The in-conference championship game. They beat them twice during the year, which I told Greg Twarzak, I said, look, because that's his team, Gonzaga.
Yep,
Gonzaga doesn't lose 3 times in the same year or to the same team. They're going to get their revenge, and they did, and they won their tourney. St. Mary's, though, is a very good school. You can see by the record, they can hold their own. They obviously got an invite for a reason here. I like them as an upset team in the first round over Vanderbilt. Haven't seen too much from Vanderbilt this year. They lost to Texas in the, I think it's the SEC tournament a few days ago or last week or whatever it was. So taking St. Mary's.
Yeah, I took St. Mary's solely because they only have 5 losses on the season.
They're a good team.
So it's one of those things. It's like if it was a little bit closer, I probably would have picked more of an upset. Like again, I don't really watch any of these teams unless I'm here with you. But yeah, I'm taking St. Mary's.
And then Bama against Robert Morris. I got Bama. Nate Oates, former UB coach. I'm going to take Bama in this one. Bob Morris, I like him. Good school. They made it this far. Could be a Cinderella story, upset. But I think it's, again, Bama's been one of these teams that are always talked about every year. I got Bama going out of the first 64.
Yeah, I have Alabama as well.
All right, real quick. Duke over Baylor to the Sweet 16. Or I got Arizona actually over Oregon. Wisconsin over VCU. I actually have St. Mary's upsetting Bama into the Sweet 16. Elite 8, Duke and Wisconsin battling it out. And then I have Duke advancing to the Final Four.
Yeah, I went with Duke over Mississippi State, Arizona over Liberty, Wisconsin over BYU, and Alabama over St. Mary's. And then to get to the Sweet 16, I got Duke over Arizona and Alabama over Wisconsin. And then for the Elite 8, I got Duke over Alabama to get to the Final Four.
Man, you have Bama going fire.
I do. I like Alabama this year. Yeah. You know, from what I've seen and what I've heard through, you know, the various sports programs that I listen to. Because what happens is when you get to this type of year, all the programs are talking about the higher ranked schools. So you hear more about them. You don't really hear as much about these Cinderella schools, you know, quote unquote Cinderella schools that can make these runs. So, yeah, Alabama. I think Alabama's a pretty good team this year from what I've seen.
Man, I got to hope that Wisconsin goes as far as I got them, because if Bama gets as far as you got them, I'm missing out on a lot of points there because I got them out in the round of 32. So that'll be interesting. All right, last division here. We got the Midwest. Oops, went too far. There we go. Midwest here. I like this one a lot. A few upsets, kind of chalk for the most part, especially when we get down to the Elite 8. But I'll start us off here. Houston against SIU Edwardsville. That's Southern Illinois University of Edwardsville. Yeah. This one is a spread of 28.5. Houston is probably the best team defensively all season. People don't score more than 60 on them at average. Like, they hold their opponents to low-scoring games. They guard the perimeter very well. They guard the three ball. It's a tough team to beat. They're probably the hardest defensive team. Them and I got Michigan State probably number 2 as far as defensive teams. They play a little bit slower of a pace game as well. So again, they make their opponents play down to their speed, and they just take control. They got a couple big name players on their team, Cryer and Juwan Roberts. Roberts, I think, is their center. He got hurt actually last game, so if he plays, he should be playing. I don't think it was a long-term injury. I think it was just he kind of tweaked his ankle in that last game. But their team is pretty stacked. Houston, easy.
Yeah, Houston for me as well. Because I couldn't even tell you who SIU Edwardsville is. So
yeah, nobody really good. I don't even know I don't think they won. No, they came in like second, I think, in their conference, or third in their conference tourney. So it's kind of weird that they got actually got a spot in the tournament. I'd have to look into that a little bit further, but I'm not too sure why they're there. Again, over teams like West Virginia, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's kind of weird. Yep. All right, this will be a good one. Gonzaga at Georgia, right? Yes.
Yep.
8-9 matchup here. We say these are usually the toughest ones. I got to take the Zags. If they didn't play St. Mary's three times this year, giving them 2 losses, they would have had only 6 losses. They would have been 27-6 on the year. So besides St. Mary's getting them twice, Gonzaga's still Gonzaga, man. There's a Mark Few, I think, is their coach. He's been there before. Another one of these guys you kind of got to pick off of coaching as well. Good players, but better coaching.
Yeah, I took Gonzaga solely for Greggy T on this one. I know that's his team. I get the Snapchats every time they win, loud and obnoxious. I got to make sure my volume is all the way down when I open up his snaps at 1 o'clock in the morning because they're a West Coast team. And this dude is still hooting and hollering. I'm like, don't you wake your parents up screaming like that? Like, dude, tone it down a little bit. But I'm taking Gonzaga on this one solely for Greggy T.
Taking the Zags. Clemson at McNeese. Again, this is a school people have upsets on here. McNeese, very good school, 27 wins this year. I'm taking Clemson, though. Clemson was, I think, the last team to beat Duke.
Oh, okay.
So I would like to see my bracket doesn't play that way out, but I would like to see a Clemson-Duke rematch in the Final Four. I think that would be really interesting, but I got Clemson advancing.
Yeah, I've got Clemson going as well because I've never heard of McNeese.
Texas.
Okay, well,
Purdue at High Point. I did take this upset. High Point, elite in their conference. I think they won their conference tourney. They're out of North Carolina, High Point University. Purdue, and people wouldn't know this a lot unless you're paying attention to the games, have not been the Purdue of the past. They got a couple key players that carried over from last year. It's the same team that, for the most part, that lost in the finals against UConn. I think they lost in the finals of UConn last year. I think they made. Yeah, it was UConn Purdue.
Yeah, wasn't that who was the big 7-footer?
It's Zach Edey.
Zach Edey. Yep, that's the reason. That's actually I knew he was in the NBA, but I jump ahead of you. I took Purdue basically because they got so far last year.
They did.
And only lost Zach Edey that I know of.
I know.
They probably lost a couple other players, but I'm like. Purdue, I really feel like they're probably going to pull this one out.
Now, they are, on paper, they're the better team. And honestly, I think the McNeese upset and this upset are going to be kind of close enough where I wouldn't be mad if you took either one of those as an upset. I think one of those two teams will get it. But I took High Point in this one. They've been able to cover spreads all year in their conference and beat teams in their own conference. They won that conference pretty handily. So I don't know. Out of any of the teams, and like I was going to say, is Purdue, after they lost Edey this year, they've kind of been a little bit average. They've lost to teams like Wisconsin throughout the year, which I get it. Wisconsin's a good team, but they just haven't been as dominant. I think they lost to Michigan when Michigan wasn't looking as good late in the year. I don't know. I just don't think they're the juggernaut they were. Last year, yes, way up here. I'm not sure if the Edey thing took that much of a toll on them. It almost looks like it did, but not mad, though, at that pick by you. Moving on, we got Illinois at the winner of Texas and Xavier. Those two teams will be playing later tonight, I think, at 9:10. I picked Xavier. I think will win that game. But either way, I picked Illinois to advance. Again, as one of these teams, I don't think would be bad pick if you picked an upset and took one of the two Final Four games here first four games to actually win. So I don't know. I like Illinois. I'm just gonna no real reason. They kind of brought it together at the end of the season there. They're blowing teams up by like 20 points, and then they ended up losing in the conference tourney. But they had a nice streak there for a little bit.
Yeah, I took Illinois in this one as well. And when it comes to the other than me picking UNC, I really don't see any of these first four teams, whoever gets to advance into the actual tournament. I just don't see any of them actually making a lot of noise. Would I be shocked if Xavier beats Texas tonight and then beats Illinois on Friday? Probably not.
No, because it's an 11 seed too. Like the 16 seeds, they're going to get washed, or should get washed. The 11 seeds actually have a little bit of a chance, especially UNC, because everybody, the bad publicity they were getting anyways, that they shouldn't even have been there. They already have that going for them. But Texas Xavier are still good enough teams that they could cause an upset. At 11 seeds, not crazy. 16, 15s, you're not expecting it.
Right.
Kentucky at Troy. Another team that people have on the upset radar is Troy. High-scoring team. I think they were averaging like the mid-80s for at least the back half of the season here. But I think they're going to go up against what I think is a team that's been there before and a team that knows what they're doing. I'm going to take Kentucky in this one, getting out of the first round. Again, wouldn't be surprised if they get upset, but Kentucky should win this one.
Took Kentucky as well, based off the name. They're a huge basketball school. It's just one of those things, how do you bet against a team that's always
there,
a prohibitive favorite in these tournaments?
Utah State and UCLA here. We got a 7 and a 10 matchup, right? Is that what this is?
Yes, it is.
Again, either way, I don't think this one's. I think it's close enough. UCLA, a pretty good school this year. I actually took Utah State as just an upset. Again, only reason I got them in the pool, so kind of just pulling for them as an upset.
Yeah, I actually took Utah State because I'm
okay.
Well, because I'm like,
got to mix in some upsets.
Got to mix in some upsets, you know.
The 7-10s aren't bad either because they're close enough where you could be like realistic upsets.
Yes. You know, so that's why I took Utah State. And they've only lost 7 games. UCLA's lost 10. You know, no rhyme or reason for me as the Joe Schmo that doesn't watch until tomorrow at noon.
I get it. And this one pretty chalk here. Tennessee over Wofford. The Terriers, man. Wofford beating Furman in their conference championship game, and Furman was heavily favored in that game. Wofford actually stealing that. Basically the bid to get into here. If Furman wins the championship game, they're in the NCAA championship bracket. Wofford won instead. They got the bid for the 15 seed. However, I think it'll be that was it. It's just kind of a thanks for showing up, and they're going to get their ass kicked by what I would say is the third best defensive team. So if we're going to go Houston, you can kind of call Michigan State in this team a kind of maybe a tie for 2, but I got Michigan State at 2, and then Tennessee probably the third best defensive team in the NCAA. Again, slower paced team. They make you play their style of basketball, and they can put up points when they want to put up points. They got some quad 1 wins on the season. They play in the SEC, which is probably the toughest conference this year, and I just think it's going to be too much firepower.
Yeah, I took Tennessee solely based off of it's a team that I've actually heard of.
And to round out this, the Midwest here, Houston over Zaga, Clemson over High Point, Kentucky over Illinois, and Tennessee over Utah State. Then I got Houston over Clemson, Tennessee over Kentucky, and I got Houston going to the Final Four, which is going to be different than what you got.
Oh, yeah, way different. So as a shout out to Greggy T, I've got Gonzaga beating Houston to get to the Sweet 16, Purdue over Clemson, Illinois over Kentucky, and Tennessee over Utah. And then I've got Gonzaga over Purdue to get to the Elite 8. And then I've got Tennessee over Illinois. But then that's where my friendship with Greggy T runs out. I've got Tennessee over Gonzaga to get to the Final Four.
Not mad at that. Again, Gonzaga is a team that gets there all the time, right? So it's like, I'm not mad at that pick there. I think and this is, again, watching the games, Houston just handles these teams, man. It's like, that's one of these teams where, honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if they made it to the championship game. But they're a team that they rely heavily on their defense to slow you down. They make their shots. They play very good defense. You don't make your shots. Next thing you know, you're losing by 20. So, but I like Gonzaga, man. I like a school that's been there. Houston actually, I think, choked last year, I think, in an early round as well, too. So could be one of those, like, you get the jitters again and you're out. So.
Yeah. Well, Houston was the team that I corrected. After I first sent you my picks, and you were like, hey, you have all number 1 seeds. I was like, oh, I do. Let me go back and change that. And I was looking, I'm like, you know what? Let me get some Greggy T love in here.
Pushed him out.
Get Gonzaga a little bit of a run here. But, yeah, that was realistically the first team that I saw that I didn't want to take out. But like I said, I don't really care. I'm not putting any type of money on this. So I took Gonzaga to push out Houston in the second round.
I like it. And I got our Final Four matchup here in our championship round as well here in our winners. We'll go through this pretty quickly. So Michigan State and Florida coming from the left side of the bracket. I got Florida winning that one. I just think Florida is just such an offensive juggernaut, and I want to see this matchup. On the right side of the bracket, Duke against Houston. Can I see Duke getting bounced out early if a Cooper flag doesn't come back, let's say by the second or third round? If you want to give me a second team there, I would say Wisconsin, honestly, could probably make it to the Final Four. But I'm going to assume that flag is going to be healthy. And then on the lower side, Houston kind of clean sweeping a lot of these teams, just a very good defensive team. And I think Houston will be a very good team, kind of a clash of styles as well. Again, healthy, They win that game, not healthy, probably lean a little bit towards Houston. And then it don't matter who comes up, dude. I just have a feeling about Florida this year. I've watched a few of their games against Auburn and Alabama, and they're just smoking teams, bro. They're just putting up numbers. They're averaging like 80-plus points a game. Their defense is good enough. It's not a Houston defense, but they're not giving up a crazy amount of points. I just think they're a buzzsaw this year, man, and it's going to be hard to win against this team. Taking Florida for the national championship, call it 85-83, high-scoring game.
Yeah, for my Final Four on the left side over here, I've got Florida over Iowa State, which might not actually happen. But like I said, I wanted to pick somebody other than the all four first number one seeds. And then I got Duke over Tennessee. Like you said, if Cooper Flagg's healthy, the Duke team is good. And I really don't want Duke to win because that's Tim's team. So that's not why I'm not picking Duke to win the championship. I'm picking Florida because one of the teams gets talked about. They're getting a lot of coverage. I'm hearing a lot about them, how good they are, how they're healthy. The coach is good. They play the game. They're one of those teams that have to make other teams play to them, to their style. So I took Florida over Duke, same Final Four as you, but I have it a little bit lower scoring at 75-74 in a thriller. I'm hoping that's a really good game.
Not the same Final Four, same
championship. Sorry. Thank you.
Coaching, I think it's Todd Golden for Florida, John Shire for Duke. This is the post Coach K era now, right? So, who knows? Nerves might sink in. We're getting, to the Final Four. A lot of pressure on the shoulders. Got to live up to the Coach K legacy. Duke could crack. Who knows? Yeah. They could crack in the Final Four. They might lose to Houston, or they might lose to Tennessee, like you have it planned out. So there's going to be a lot of pressure. I think more pressure placed on Duke, and the fact that they're going to have the projected number 1 overall draft pick on their team in Cooper Flagg. So I think just the pressure is going to be on Duke. They've played very well all year. They're covering 20-point spreads. Their conference has been pretty weak, the ACC, but like I said, they haven't lost since Clemson, like fucking 10 games ago, 11 games ago, or whenever it was. So, and since then, like I said, again, blowing teams out. So we'll see. It should be interesting. I like it a lot. All right, guys, we're going to move on real quick here. It's a pretty long episode. We're going to go on to some Sabres talk here. Transition back to the camera. We're looking nice. We're not sponsored by Farkle.
Nope. Not sponsored by Guinness either, but still drinking it.
We are looking for sponsors still.
Yeah, of course. Always need some sponsors.
Always looking for sponsors. I don't know what anything new with the Sabres besides them sucking all the time. I didn't actually look anything up ahead of time.
No, I didn't look anything up on the Sabres. We talked about the Dylan Cousins trade. Dylan Cousins is actually performing very well for the Ottawa Senators.
Oh, shocker.
Josh Norris, I don't know if he's even he played a couple games for the Sabres. Haven't seen enough.
Oh, they won.
So yeah, they're on a couple game winning streak here. They just beat Boston.
3-2 Boston in overtime. I just saw that.
Yeah, and then they won another game in overtime a couple days ago too, against the Vegas Knights on Saturday. That was actually a pretty good game. One of the Vegas Knights players tried to give Jack Eichel an empty net goal instead of giving it to himself, which would have secured the win. Instead, he tried to give Eichel the puck because he was getting booed, and he fucked up the pass. Sabres go down, and then they tie a Dowling clapper right from the blue line there, and tied it up, and then they end up winning it in a shootout. So nice to see Eichel lose. Always. I have no hard feelings towards him. No, I know his reasons why he wanted to leave, and I really don't blame him because the Sabres are still the fucking Sabres at this point.
Nah, I get it, man.
They've got 60 points.
The fans are always going to boo him because we're mad. We're salty.
Because
good talent. Pick. He left. He won a freaking cup the very next year, and he's still playing at a high level, and he's probably a top 10.
Top 10, 15.
I'd say 10, 15 talent in the NHL. So, definitely one of the better centers, and which is something we lack too. So It sucks. It does sting a lot, I would say. But I can understand the booing as well, man. Everybody's salty that he left. Sabres' next game is actually tomorrow against the Utah Hockey Club. Utah 30, 27, and 11 on the season. Not the greatest. They started off, I think, this year pretty hot. They actually beat the Sabres in early December 5-2 when it was here.
Yeah, I was at that game. That was
you went to the game, right?
Yep.
Goals here. The Sabres are actually 12th in the league in goals scored with 3.12 average here. But man, dude, as an away team, 10-19 on the year. They're 6-11 in their own division. They are on a 2-game win streak. The hockey club's on a 1-game losing streak. I'd like us to gain some momentum here again. Look at, man, playoffs are out of the question. We already knew that. Pretty much after the first month of hockey, you're like, this looks like the same shit again.
It was that 0-13 run because we talked about it. It was right before Thanksgiving. They had 3 different stretches of 3-game wins, which they hadn't had since the 07 season. Things were looking actually promising. You know, Lindy Ruff finally figured out the team a little bit, got them playing to his level, and then all of a sudden they go on an 0-13 run. It's like, well, that's exactly what we talk about in the beginning of the season, is they can't have that stretch end of November, all of December, and they suck.
Yeah, I agree with that one. You got to go on these streaks here, winning streaks, and it can't be like we won 2 games and then lose 13. And then, we won like 2 games, 3 games, and then you lose 5. You got to win more than you lose, and that's how math works, folks. And then you'll end up with a winning record. Yeah, surprise.
Wow, who would have thought?
Yeah, you know what? But look, despite us not making playoffs again this year, you can give us some hope again. Go on a nice win streak here. Finish out the regular season on a positive note. Maybe we can trick some people into coming to Buffalo next year. Hey, look, we saw what the Sabres did at the end of the year. I know. It probably won't happen. However, I think we need to do something here, and the only positive thing I can think of is just keep winning games. The team is just ass.
Kevin Adams needs to make trades. He has not.
Kevin Adams needs to go.
He needs to go. I've seen a lot of people calling for Terry Pegula to sell the team. My only hesitation with that is I'd rather have a bad hockey team in Buffalo than sell the team and chance them moving to another city. So would you rather no hockey in Buffalo or bad hockey in Buffalo? And unfortunately, I think I'd rather take bad hockey in Buffalo than no hockey, because then that arena's just going to sit. That downtown area that they've been working up, Canal Side, kind of probably going to go to shit too. They've done all these renovations. They added the Harbor Center. They've got all these other things down there. It's just going to become a ghost town if there's no hockey there. What are they going to use the arena for?
Well,
like Disney on Ice?
It'll just be for concerts and stuff, but it sucks because the Bills are already not downtown. So if you lose the Sabres, you basically have no professional sports because, you know what I mean?
The Bandits go with the Sabres, so that's another reason.
Oh, yeah, that
so
sucks.
If people want to call for the Sabres to get sold,
yeah, that's tough.
The Bandits go with them. Careful what you wish for. There's a lot of people that love the Bandits.
Oh, that would be tough, dude. I didn't even think about that. They couldn't just buy the Bandits and
I don't know how that works. As far as I know, the Bandits are a package deal with the Sabres.
I bet you, though, like, it wouldn't even matter even if we wanted to keep them. They're not going to bring in enough revenue to keep that stadium afloat.
Yeah, they only play like 10 games, 11 games.
Exactly, and those ticket prices are cheap, and it's like not many people really go to those.
Oh, they sell out. They sell out.
Really?
No, the Bandits. Oh, they absolutely sell out.
Bandits sell more. That goes to show you I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, package deal. They're both gone. That wouldn't be good.
No.
I'll take cheap Sabres tickets over no Sabres team, I guess. So
yeah.
Go on a win streak here. I don't know, win like 8 games in a row, and I'll be kind of happy, I guess.
Yep.
All right, guys. It was a long episode this week.
Remember when you wanted to cram both NFL free agency news and the NCAA tournament into one podcast?
We essentially did that with this week. We have 5 concurrent viewers right now.
Oh, we like to see that. Thanks to the 5 that are
right at the end.
I'm one of them, but
right at the end.
I got it up on my phone just to
it.
see this real quick, just to see how it looks, and it looks pretty good.
All right, guys, I'm going to fade to the outro music here. We got a little fancy outro music. With that being said, I'm Mikey D.
I'm Jeff.
We out.
Good boss.